Yo, so guys, welcome back to another video. This is a reaction to what happened when America tried to invade Britain, and it's by a channel called 42. This is a channel that I remember watching a few years back, and they just do interesting topics. Or I don't know if it's, I mean, he's the one who does the videos. I don't know if it's like a group behind it. Probably is, but I'm gonna say his channel. His channel is quite thought invoking. Wait, is that the word I'm looking for? I'm trying to be smarter, right? Using these terminologies. Wait. It sort of makes you think, right? Yeah, calm, man. I'm a smart guy, you know. And yeah, this will probably just be another one of his videos that just make you think, really. And I don't know what I was really saying. We're just gonna get into. So hopefully, you're going to enjoy. I don't know when I'm going to be posting this video because I'm reacting to a lot of videos today and tomorrow because I'm going away for a few days to London for my anniversary with my girlfriend. So I'm assuming this is one I'm posting on the 23rd of November. Or 23rd of November. So this is just me saying basically the next few days, some videos may be a bit hit or miss, I don't know. But yeah, we're going to do some short reactions, some longer ones, just so I can sort of get the reactions out there for Patreon and for hopefully my second channel as well, because I want to try and be able to post on all of them. But yeah, links in the description to my Instagram if you want to see what I'm getting up to in London. I should be posting some things that I do. And links are to my Patreon as well for those who want to see some extra reactions that get blocked on YouTube. But we're just going to get into this. Hopefully you're going to enjoy, and yeah, man, let's just jump into it.
This video is kindly sponsored by CuriosityStream, the subscription streaming service that offers thousands of documentaries and non-fiction titles from some of the world's best filmmakers. Hey, 42 here.
He's changed a bit. He looks different from when I used to see his channel.
42 here. Great Britain and the USA have always been the closest of allies. And over the last couple of centuries, we've done all the things good allies do together. We've traded goods, shared knowledge, enjoyed our respective cultures, and waged a few dubious wars. We're the country equivalent of BFFs, best buds, comrades in arms, partners in crime, friends with benefits. Whoa,
Fuck, you know.
Where did that last one come from? Anyway, the US and Great Britain get on so well our geopolitical alliance even has a name. The Special Relationship, coined by none other than Winston Churchill in 1946. Seriously, which other nations have a whole Wikipedia page dedicated to how well they get on? To be fair, I probably shouldn't say that Britain and the US have always been close allies. I mean, we have been to war with each other once or twice. By far the biggest of those conflicts was the Revolutionary War, fought for America's independence from the British Empire between 1775 and 1783. And it was during that.
And I'm happy about that. I'm happy we took the L. I've said this before in previous videos. I'm happy we took the L. We firmed the L and we moved on. And look where we are now. We live in a pretty good society, as do Americans. What am I talking about? When's the second one going to be? I'm interested about that.
Scrap that something unique happened. For the first and only time in history, the United States launched a physical assault against Britain's shores.
So the US
Although some historians argue that a second assault occurred in 1999, when the...
Wait, what? 1999? What, 22 years ago?
Backstreet Boys toured England.
Oh, for fuck's sake. Oh my god.
This monumental attack against Britain was planned and executed by a man named Nick Carter. Oh, sorry, wrong one. The attack was planned and executed by John Paul Jones. If you know your American military history, that name will no doubt be very familiar to you, because Mr. Jones is considered to be one of the fathers of the US Navy, alongside John Adams and John Barry.
Love the Johns, don't they?
Despite his lofty position in US military law, John Paul Jones was, to be frank, a bit of a nutcase. in leading the first and only American attack to land troops on mainland Britain. Jones was pitting himself against the most powerful military force on Earth. And yet he didn't choose to take on the Royal Navy at the head of a mighty armada. No, he attacked the British Isles with a single ship, USS Ranger. Curiosity Stream is the world's first streaming.
Shout out to him getting his money, man. If you're interested, click the link of my description, link from his video, and you can find it there. Getting his bread, man. You'll have to see it. Wait, why is it only 5 seconds?
History buffs.
Why is it just 5 seconds? It was 10 seconds before.
If you're anything like me and you want to and non-fiction half, which comes out to only $14.99 a year, that's just $120.com 99 for a whole year.
Why is it
unbelievable?
Why when I do this, it's going 5 seconds now? It was 10 seconds before. What have I done?
Jones obviously couldn't attempt a full-blown invasion. Disadvantage. Jones obviously couldn't attempt a full-blown invasion. Instead, he planned to use Ranger to sow his own distinctive brand of chaos, disrupting Britain's forces as much as he possibly could. To begin with, that all went rather well, with Ranger successfully sinking several supply ships in the English Channel. But Jones wasn't satisfied. After all, the Royal Navy was huge, and picking off the odd supply vessel here and there was more of an annoyance than a genuine problem. And so Jones made a remarkable decision. If he wanted to deal the Empire a truly telling blow, he was going to have to invade the mainland. Jones chose the port of Whitehaven as the target of this attack. Around 400 ships were moored there at the time, and if he and his men could sneak ashore under cover of darkness, a few strategically placed fires could achieve in minutes what would take years to do out on the open ocean. You have to hand it to him, attacking a well-armed port town with a single ship was incredibly bold. Yeah. But boldness alone doesn't mean a plan will be successful, as John Paul Jones was about to find out. I should probably point out that Jones didn't choose Whitehaven solely because of the large number of ships moored there. There was another, more important reason. During the early part of his maritime career, Jones had been based at Whitehaven, and he knew that port like the back of his hand, knowledge he could use to his advantage during the attack. If you're wondering why a decorated American military captain had once been based at an English port, that's simple. Despite his subsequent infamy for spearheading the US's only direct attack on British soil in history, John Paul Jones was actually a Brit himself.
I guess because it was the early times of the US, wasn't it? A lot of Brits were moved to the US. Or moved to the US. So he was actually born in the UK.
He didn't leave Blighty until the age of 23. And even then, it wasn't exactly voluntary. He was fleeing murder charges after killing 2 members of his own crew during 2 separate mutinies.
Makes sense why he left. Makes sense.
As Jones sailed Ranger towards Whitehaven, he began to construct a plan based on his near-perfect knowledge of the port and the waters around it. The way he saw it, torching Whitehaven's ships should be relatively easy. Apart from one small problem. 2, actually. The twin forts that guarded the harbour entrance, 1 to each side. Jones was confident the forts wouldn't stop him getting in. Never in their wildest dreams did the Brits expect an American attack on home soil, so there was practically no chance of lookouts being present during the night when Jones planned to attack. But getting out would be another matter entirely. As soon as Jones's men set fire to Whitehaven's fleet, the alarm would be raised, and within minutes the fort's many cannons would be scanning the sea for enemy ships. USS Ranger would be sunk for sure. Jones didn't have enough men to capture the forts, and that left him with only one option. He was going to have to cripple them. On the night of the attack, Jones split his force in two and instructed his men to sneak into the forts and spike the cannons. Literally ram steel spikes into a small opening known as a touch hole, rendering the fearsome weapons completely useless.
He's a smart guy,
The first part of the plan went off without a hitch. Though unfavourable tides meant getting to the forts took longer than expected, that shouldn't have been a problem. There was still plenty of time to engage in a spot of good old-fashioned arson. But it was here that the mission hit its first major snag. The men's lanterns had run out of fuel, meaning they had no way of setting Whitehaven's ships on fire. These days, some helpful smoker would probably have pulled out a lighter or a match, and all would have been well. But this was 1778, and neither lighters nor matches had been invented yet. By the way, the cigarette lighter was invented in 1823, 3 years before the friction match. How's that for a random interesting fact?
Wait, what? Oh, that's me thinking the lighters were like a flipping maybe 1960s invention or something. What the fuck? That was before the match? Are you serious?
1823. 3 years before the friction match.
Then
How's that
know?
for a random interesting fact? Anyway, Jones and his men had Whitehaven's ships at their mercy, but they had nothing to set them on fire with. Luckily, Jones's local knowledge once again came to the fore. He knew there was a public house on the harbour front that would be sure to have plenty of spare fuel on hand. Jones duly dispatched his men to raid the pub, and raid the pub is exactly what they did. Of beer. Despite the fact they were in the middle of a daring mission on enemy soil and would no doubt...
That's the Brit coming back into him. That's the Brit I know. Just drinking alcohol. Getting the beers in. Whilst you're in a flipping fight. Like, flipping hell. You're getting chased by some armies and you're just there drinking some flipping lager.
Be
Fair
killed
enough,
on
man.
the spot if anyone caught them. Once inside the pub, the men simply couldn't resist a quick pint. By the time they returned with the fuel, the sun was beginning to rise, and time was running out. In an effort to do the maximum damage to Whitehaven's ships in the shortest time possible, Jones focused his efforts on a heavily laden coal ship named Thompson, reasoning that if the coal went up, the ensuing inferno would quickly spread to the rest of the closely packed ships in the harbour, triggering an unstoppable chain reaction that would destroy the entire fleet. It was a sound plan, but unfortunately for John Paul Jones, he never got to find out if it would have worked. Because one of his crew, a chap by the name of Daniel Freeman, was hiding a secret. He hadn't signed up to America's Continental Navy to fight the British. He'd simply been trying to get free passage across the Atlantic. You see, Freeman was Irish, and he had no intention of letting Whitehaven's ships go up in smoke. As Jones and his men began lighting strategic fires on board the Thompson, the rebel Irishman snuck away towards the town, where he promptly began banging on every door he could to alert the locals to the attack. Within minutes, most of the men in Whitehaven had descended on the harbour. Vastly outnumbered by the growing mob of angry pyjama-wearing Englishmen, Jones was forced to call an immediate retreat. He was able to escape without any casualties. The townsfolk were unable to fire the spiked cannons as Jones had planned, but just one of the 400 ships in Whitehaven Harbour was on fire, the Thompson, and the modest blaze was extinguished in a matter of minutes, with little damage caused. The US's first and only assault on the British Isles Backstreet Boys aside, had ended in failure. But Jones had no intention of returning home empty-handed. True, there was no way he could scupper the fleet at Whitehaven without the element of surprise on his side any longer, but he did have a plan B.
What's he doing now then?
Just 25 miles north of Whitehaven, across the Solway Firth, is a small coastal town by the name of Kirkcudbright. Having been born just 20 miles to the east, John Paul Jones knew it well. He also knew to the south of Kirkcudbright lived a man by the name of Dunbar Douglas, better known as the 4th Earl of Selkirk. Jones reasoned that the British might be prepared to hand over a large number of captured American soldiers in return for said Earl. And so, having failed at arson, Jones decided to have a go at kidnapping. This being a far more civilized time, when Jones sent 2 of his men to nab the Earl on arrival at Kirkcudbright, they didn't burst in, all guns blazing. They simply walked up to the front door of the grand Selkirk estate and knocked. It was the butler who answered, naturally, and the would-be kidnappers were invited into the drawing room, where they were given tea.
Fancy a couple.
As a Brit myself, I can confirm that there is literally no social situation that can't be made less awkward by tea. Even a kidnapping. Lady Selkirk, the woman of the house, was summoned to entertain the guests. But pleasant though the little pre-kidnap tea party was, the sailors were keen to get down to business. Unfortunately, it soon became clear abducting the Earl was going to be rather more difficult than they'd expected, on account of him not actually being in the country at the time. Luckily, Lady Selkirk was a true believer in the importance of hospitality. She didn't want her guests to leave disappointed, and since kidnapping was out of the question, she suggested they might want to steal the family silver instead. The sailors agreed, and they were soon on their way back to the Ranger with a sack full of loot.
What the fuck?
When they presented said loot to Captain Jones sometime later, it became clear that there had been more to Lady Selkirk than met the eye. Because, apart from several ornate and expensive silver plates engraved with the Selkirk coat of arms, the bulging sack had been mostly full of coal.
Wow.
To make matters even worse, whilst Jones had apparently been pretty comfortable with arson and kidnapping, it seems he considered stealing to be the height of rudeness. He did reluctantly allow his crew to keep the silver, but 7 years later, he would buy it back at an auction in France before returning it to the Earl and his wife, accompanied by a handwritten apology. Whilst it's true that both the attack on Whitehaven and the kidnapping of the Earl of Selkirk ended up being a bit of a bust, I'd be doing John Paul Jones a gross disservice to suggest his one-ship raid on the British Isles was a failure. In fact, the very next day after the bungled kidnapping, Jones led Ranger to victory in ship-to-ship combat against a Royal Navy vessel, Drake, in what was the first American naval victory of the Revolutionary War in Atlantic waters. The capture of Drake, and more importantly, Jones's willingness to strike at the very heart of the Empire, in spite of the overwhelming odds stacked against him, dealt an important psychological blow to the British, who had, up until that point, considered themselves pretty much untouchable. And more than that, Jones's incredible bravery became a symbol of America's unbreakable spirit during a war that would eventually bring about her freedom.
Tell you what, I do respect the absolute balls of this guy, man. Just he got one ship, a few people on board with him, and he just gone and attacked a place of like 400 ships. he just went, you know what, fuck it, man. Let's just ruin this man's whole career Obviously, it didn't go to plan, but I do rate the balls of the lad, man. I do rate it. Just one ship trying to cause absolute havoc. I'm not gonna lie, the biggest twist of this whole story is an English fleet being saved by an Irishman. Pretty sure you could classify the Anglo-Irish relationship as special, though for entirely different reasons. To be fair, had Jones had a crew that wasn't full of idiots and a traitor, he would have likely had a fairly successful trip, crazy as it may have been. We have invaded each other's cultures so often that I'm starting to have a hard time seeing the differences. I'm surprised that Americans didn't create a holiday. Fucking hell, man. John Paul Jones, let's sink supply ships and bring the United Kingdom to its knees with a single ship. Germany, write that down. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed this one. This is a fun little reaction. Actually, I enjoyed this one, man. Bit of a silly one, but you know what? I like these sort of videos to see, man. It's just fun to learn about these random, unique stories that probably have little to no importance to our daily lives, but it's just fun to learn about. And honestly, I do rate it. The fact that you would do this and have the balls to just go to the UK, and at the time again was the most powerful naval country, with one ship, a crew full of people that weren't very good. I do rate it, man. I do respect it. But yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed this reaction. If you want more reactions to this type of stuff or to this channel, suggest it in the comments. And yeah, until next time, like, subscribe. Peace.